"75 years ago, two of the United States' most acclaimed orators faced off in a courtroom in Dayton, Tennessee, in a trial that has achieved iconic status in the United States. The case's unofficial name? The Scopes Trial, also known as the Monkey Trial. The lead players, Clarence Darrow and William Jennings Bryan. The issue? The teaching of evolution and creationism in the classroom, an issue still under debate today. On trial were the actions of Tennessee high school football coach and teacher John Scopes. Scopes had agreed to deliberately run afoul of a state law forbidding teaching any theory that denies the story of divine creation of man as taught in the Bible. The Great Tennessee Monkey Trial is an original play based on the actual court transcripts of the trial that took place in Dayton in 1925. It's an issue that doesn't seem to want to go away. What was once a battle between science and faith has reemerged as a debate between evolution and intelligent design. Here is part one of The Great Tennessee Monkey Trial by Peter Goodchild. This Los Angeles TheaterWorks production was recorded live in performance as part of their hugely successful nationwide tour. Edward Asner stars as William Jennings Bryan.
By and by, oh, when the morning comes, you know all the saints of God are gathering home. We will tell the story of how the Lord has come, and we'll understand His death by and by.
It was called the Trial of the Century. Two of the most famous men in America locked in deadly ideological combat. For the press, it was the headline story, and it marked the first time that the new medium of radio was used to broadcast a trial to listeners all across the country. Its issues are as controversial today as they were back in 1925. It was an event that came to be known as the Great Tennessee Monkey Trial. Tuesday, July 7th, 1925, and the Royal Palm train from Florida was making a special stop at the tiny station in Dayton, Tennessee. A crowd numbering several hundred was there to greet one of the most celebrated men ever to visit the small town. One-time Secretary of State in Woodrow Wilson's administration and three-time Democratic presidential candidate, William Jennings Bryan. He'd come to join the prosecution in the case of the state of Tennessee versus John Thomas Scopes.
Well, I'm here. Long have I looked forward to getting to Dayton, and I'm ready for anything that is to be done. John Scopes has been indicted for the teaching of evolution in our public schools, which is against the law in this state. But this case is more than that. The contest between evolution and Christianity is a duel to the death between unbelief that attempts to speak through so-called science and the defenders of the Christian faith speaking through the legislature of Tennessee. And if this law is upheld by this jury in this fine town, and evolution is banned from our schools, and the religion and morale of our children protected, then millions of Christians everywhere, with hearts full of gratitude, will call you, the people of Dayton, blessed!
It was the aftermath of the First World War that had reignited fundamentalism and brought men like William Jennings Bryan to its cause. The shock of a brutal war, the world unrest which followed it, and the apparent breakdown of traditional values had created a widespread reaction. There was a search for causes and for reasons, and among the conservative Christians, the main target was Darwin's theory of evolution.
I object to Darwinian theory because I fear we shall lose the consciousness of God's presence in our daily life. If we accept the theory that through all the ages, no spiritual force has touched the life of man.
In the 1920s, a research study on religious belief among college students and professors showed that while 15% of the students were unbelievers before entering college, nearly 40% had become unbelievers by the time they left. The greatest number, over 80%, was found among biologists. This was to be Bryan's prime justification for participating in the Scopes trial. By the early 20s, he was heading a formidable political movement. They'd already attempted legislation in 7 states and had succeeded in 4 of them, the most recent being Tennessee, where the state had passed an act introduced by the farmer senator John Butler.
That it shall be unlawful for any teacher in the public schools of this state to teach any theory that denies the story of the divine creation of man as taught in the Bible, and to teach instead that man has descended from a lower order of animals.
Fundamentalists were becoming a force everywhere, engaging in issues ranging from prohibition to abortion. The ultra-conservative and violent Ku Klux Klan, seen as a real threat to civil liberties, was attempting to form links with some of these fundamentalists. So concerned was the newly formed American Civil Liberties Union that they decided to mount a test case. They advertised throughout Tennessee for a teacher who would challenge the new law. And this is where the town of Dayton became involved. An attractive and once prosperous iron and coal mining town with 11 churches serving its 1,800 inhabitants, it had fallen on hard times, and it was desperately looking to better itself. Thus it was that on May 5th, a group of local businessmen met in Frank Robinson's drugstore and soda fountain to discuss the ACLU's notice in the local paper. They saw the test case as a way of putting their town on the map. But first, they needed a volunteer, a teacher who'd be put on trial for opposing the Butler Act. So they turned to a young sports coach at the school, John Thomas Scopes. They sent word for him to join them at the soda fountain.
Frank Robinson handed me the Chattanooga News, where the American Civil Liberties Union was offering to pay the expenses of anyone willing to test the constitutionality of the Butler Act.
John, would you be willing to stand for a test case?
Now, I knew that sooner or later someone was going to have to take a stand against the stifling of freedom the Butler Act represented, so I said I would, provided they could prove I've taught evolution.
Well, you stood in for the principal when he was sick and taught biology, didn't you? Didn't you cover evolution?
To tell the truth, I wasn't sure I had taught evolution, but Robinson and the others weren't concerned about this technicality. I had expressed a willingness to stand trial, and that was enough. He walked over to the phone and called the Chattanooga News.
This is F.E. Robinson in Dayton. I'm chairman of the school board here. We've just arrested a man for teaching evolution.
In fact, John Scopes had to go out and find the sheriff to have himself arrested. There were no days spent behind bars, just an appearance before a justice of the peace who found there to be ample evidence against him. Robinson sent a cable to the American Civil Liberties Union, and there was a prompt reply by telegram. We will cooperate Scopes' case with financial aid, legal advice, and publicity. The impending trial became national news, and the giants of both the liberal and the fundamentalist causes answered the call to battle. The first of these was William Jennings Bryan. In 1912, he had helped Woodrow Wilson to power, becoming his Secretary of State. A confirmed pacifist, he then resigned in protest when Wilson decided to join the war in Europe.
He is absolutely sincere.
Wilson said of him,
That is why he is so dangerous.
After leaving office, Bryan continued fighting for his liberal causes, even when his political ambitions faded. And he then took up with what rapidly became a fundamentalist crusade. But there were those deterred by his messianic approach. Back in Nebraska, his own home state, he was described as
like the River Platte, a mile wide at the mouth, but only 6 inches deep.
Bryan's adoption by the prosecution in Dayton galvanized another great public figure to join the fight. 30 years before, Clarence Darrow had worked on Bryan's first 2 presidential campaigns. He was now the country's most famous criminal lawyer, and as one of his most public agnostics, a dedicated rival of Bryan's.
I was in New York when I saw that Mr. Bryan had volunteered to assist with the prosecution. Immediately, I volunteered to assist with the defense. Free of charge. My only goal was to expose the evil at hand, the program of Mr. Bryan and the fundamentalists in America. With me, I brought my friend Arthur Garfield Hayes of the American Civil Liberties Union and Dudley Field Malone, international divorce lawyer.
Darrow regularly challenged traditional concepts of morality and religion. He regarded Christianity as an enslaving religion. He believed evolution, with its holistic view of living things, was gentler and kinder than religious dogma. He was a tall, shambling figure. His wife was always being asked why she never bought him better clothes. "Oh, he probably spends 5 times more on clothes than you do," she replied. "The only difference is he sleeps in his." With Darrow had also come another friend who was to act as his counselor throughout the trial. H.L. Mencken of the Baltimore Sun, one of the best-known journalists of the time, the man who coined the phrase Bible Belt, and he was renowned for his outspoken opinions.
July the 9th, 1925. The town, I confess, greatly surprised me. I expected to find a squalid southern village with darkies snoozing on the horse blocks and pigs rooting under the houses and the inhabitants full of hookworm and malaria. What I found was a country town of charm and even beauty. The town boomers have banqueted Darrow as well as Bryan, but there is no mistaking which of the two has the crowd. What Bryan said doesn't seem to these congenial Baptists and Methodists to be argument. It seems to be a mere graceful statement of the obvious.
So, Bryan and Darrow, formidable adversaries ready for battle, or as Bryan described it, a duel to the death. John Scopes may have only been on trial for a misdemeanor, carrying a likely penalty of $100. But there were some 200 journalists covering it, not just in the United States, but from all over the world. The trial began on Friday, the 10th of July, in the surprisingly large and elegant courthouse at the center of Dayton.
Top of the grand staircase, we entered the largest courtroom I'd ever seen, able to accommodate 1,000 of its townspeople, plus those jammed into the aisles and up against the walls. Above the judge's seat was a monster sign saying, "Read your Bible daily." There was another one over the seats awaiting the jury and in other places around the courtroom, so it looked as though there'd been a discount offer somewhere.
All rise.
The court was presided over by Judge John Ralston, a local judge and lay preacher, more used to trying bootleggers and petty thieves. After the trial, he was to declare himself against evolution. Darrow thought he would have been most at home talking to the wives at a church picnic.
I'll be seated.
Ralston was obviously overawed by the 100 or so international journalists that invaded his court, and by the microphones for this, the first ever live broadcast of a trial.
Gentlemen, I desire to show you that we are glad to have you with us, the foreign lawyers for both the state and the defense. I shall accord you the same privileges accorded to local counsel, and assure you again that we're delighted to have you with us. Mr. Attorney General, General Stewart, are you ready to begin the selection of jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you ready too, gentlemen? Colonel Darrow?
Yes, sir.
By local custom, attorneys on both sides were graced with the title Colonel.
You want the names drawn from the box?
Yes, sir.
A 4-year-old boy, perched on the corner of Judge Ralston's desk, drew a name from a large wooden box containing those of possible jurors, and the candidate was then cross-questioned.
Mr. Riley, you have any feeling that this evolution is a wrong teaching at this time?
Well, I haven't studied very much about it.
Ever heard Mr. Bryan speak about it?
No, sir.
Ever read anything he said about it?
No, sir. I can't read.
Well, you're fortunate. Those glasses, you have a problem with your eyes?
No, sir. I'm uneducated. Just uneducated.
Few of the prospective jurors knew what evolution was, and those who did had a very particular view of it.
You say you're a pastor, Mr. Massengill. You ever preach on evolution?
Yes, I have referred to it.
Against it or for it?
Is that a fair question, Judge?
Answer the question.
I preached against it, of course.
Why, of course.
Let's have order.
You have a strong conviction against evolution, haven't you?
Well, some points, yes, but
Are you trying to get on this jury?
No, sir.
Challenge for cause?
Well, I won't have a juror to start with an open mind. I have to excuse you, Mr. Massengill.
July the 10th. It was obvious after a few rounds that the jury would be unanimously hot for Genesis. The most that Mr. Darrow could hope for was to sneak in a few men bold enough to declare publicly that they would have to hear the evidence against Scopes before condemning him. This is a strictly Christian community. One of them accused of heresy among them is like one accused of boiling his grandmother to make soap in Maryland.
The choices had been made. 10 farmers, a teacher, and a former U.S. Marshal. The judge then adjourned the court for the weekend. As the crowds dispersed, Dayton, for the first time in its life, experienced a traffic jam, as numbers of the visitors headed for the cool of the mountains or the cities of Knoxville and Chattanooga. When Darrow went out for an evening stroll, he found Dayton far from deserted.
Like mushrooms on every corner, hot dog booths, fruit peddlers, ice cream vendors had sprung into existence. Evangelist tents were propped up in every corner every night. Someone not knowing what was going on would have thought hordes of howling dervishes were holding forth. In reality, they were just crying out against the wickedness of Darwin and the rest of us and offering as substitutes cool meadows and melodious harps of kingdom come.
On that Saturday night, John Scopes went dancing at a local hotel.
An old girlfriend asked me to walk her back from the dance pavilion. As we walked, she suddenly, and to my great surprise, enveloped me in a passionate embrace. Simultaneously, the path was flooded with light and a horde of photographers snapped away. Well, after that, I was kinda not keen to accept even the most harmless invitation.
The court reconvened on Monday, July 13th, as Attorney General Tom Stewart, General Stewart as he was known, moved to read the indictment.
The grand jurors for the state aforesaid upon their oaths present that John Thomas Scopes, heretofore on the 24th day of April, did willfully teach in the public schools of Ray County, Tennessee, the certain theories that deny the story of the divine creation of man as taught in the Bible, and did teach instead that man has descended from a lower order of animals.
So, what is your plea, gentlemen? Colonel Hayes?
Your Honor, we, the defense, make a motion to quash the indictment, and we would like simply to present our 13 reasons for that motion.
In this attempt to stop the case, the defense hoped both to challenge the constitutionality of the new law and to crush it. If they failed, they then aimed at achieving as much propaganda as possible, while at the same time working to appeal the case to a federal court. This higher court would be bound to consider the constitutionality question. The prosecution for the state of Tennessee, on the other hand, were determined to stick to a narrow interpretation of the act, simply establishing that Scopes was guilty of his teaching offense as indicted. That afternoon, Stewart and Darrow clashed over the preferential treatment the Butler Act gave to the Bible.
The next question made by the defense in querying the indictment is whether the law gives any, quote, preference to any religious establishment or mode of worship. So how could it interfere, Mr. Darrow?
By giving preference to the Bible.
To the Bible?
Yeah, why not the Koran?
It does not mention the Koran.
Does it not prefer the Bible to the Koran?
Oh, we're not living in a heathen country, so how could it prefer the Bible to the Koran?
What I mean is this. If there be in the state of Tennessee a young man or woman who is a Jew, To impose on a science course a particular view of creation from the Bible is, in our view, interfering with his civil rights.
Well, Mr. Darrow, could he not go to school on Friday instead of what is given him by the public school, and then on Sunday study his Bible?
No. His rights should not be interfered with by any other doctrine.
No, sir. It is not an invasion of a man's religious rights. He can go to church on Sunday or any other day and there worship according to the dictates of his conscience. Mr. Scopes, the defendant, can do this. So this is not an invasion of religious liberty. The legislature has simply directed through this act that public money shall not be spent in the teaching of theories that conflict or contravene that story of creation, which they have a right to do.
Shall I proceed, Your Honor?
I will hear you, Colonel Darrow.
If the court please.
I'd like to hear this man talk for 10 minutes and then hang him.
Let's have order. Colonel Darrow, please, sir.
I shall always remember at this court, Your Honor, is the first one ever gave me the great title of Colonel. I hope it'll stick with me when I get back north.
Well, I want you to take it back to your home with you, Colonel.
I shall try to do that, Your Honor. Now, the case we have to argue is a case at law, and hard as it is for me to bring my mind to conceive it, and almost impossible as it is to put my mind back to the 16th century, that here we find today as brazen and bold an attempt to destroy learning as was ever made in the Middle Ages. Only difference is we have not provided they shall be burned at the stake. But there's time for that, Your Honor. We have to approach these things gradually. Now, we've been informed that the legislature has the right to prescribe the study in the public schools. Within reason, they no doubt have, no doubt. But the people of Tennessee adopted a constitution. And this says you shan't teach any theory on the origin of man except that contained in the divine account as contained in the Bible. No legislature is strong enough to pick any book as divine. The state of Tennessee has no more right to pick the Bible as the divine book than that the Koran is one, or the Book of Mormons, or the Book of Confucius, or the Book of Buddha, or Essays of Emerson, or any one of 1,000 books to which human souls have gone for consolation. So let us take this Bible just as it is.
They ought to put him out.
So what is this Bible? Bible is made up of 66 books written over a period of about 1,000 years. Some of them very early, and some of them comparatively late. It's a book primarily of religion and morals. It's not a book of science. Never was intended to be. There's nothing prescribed in it that would tell you how to build a railroad or a steamboat or make anything that would advance civilization. And it is not a book on biology. They knew nothing about it. They thought the earth was created 4,004 years before the Christian era. We know better. I doubt there's a man or woman in Tennessee who does not know better. There are in America at least 500 different sects or churches, all of which quarrel with each other on the importance or non-importance of certain things or the construction of certain passages. So who is the chief mogul who will tell us what this Bible means? No criminal statute can rest that way. There's not a chance for it. And the Butler is a criminal statute. Every criminal statute must be plain and simple. My friend, the Attorney General, says John Scopes knows what he's here for. I know what he's here for. He's here because the fundamentalists are after anyone who thinks. I know John Scopes is here because ignorance and bigotry are rampant. And that's a pretty strong combination, Your Honor, and it makes him fearful. But the indictment that brings him here, the state uses to bring him here, must be clear. It must be plain and simple. You look at that indictment up there. If that's a good indictment, I never saw a bad one. Now, I am a pseudo-scientist. I believe in evolution. A pseudo-scientist, so named by someone from Florida, Mr. Bryan, who neither knows nor cares what science is except to grab it by the throat and throttle it to death. Now, as a pseudo-scientist, I believe in evolution. So can a legislative body say to someone like me, you cannot read a book, take a lesson, or make a talk on science until you first find out whether you're saying anything against Genesis? Well, it can, unless the Constitution protects me. And that's what's happening here. Here's the state of Tennessee going along about its own business, teaching evolution for years, and along comes somebody who says we have to believe it the way they believe it. They make it a crime to know more than they do, and they publish a law inhibiting learning. Makes the Bible a yardstick to measure every man's intellect, measure every man's intelligence, to measure every man's learning. Is your mathematics good? Turn to 1 Elijah 2. Your astronomy good? See Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Is your chemistry good? See Deuteronomy 3, 6, or anything that talks about brimstone. Every bit of knowledge that the mind has must be submitted to a religious test, and that is a travesty. Show me that Barber's case, will you, Mr. Hayes? Now, Your Honor, I got a case here, a Tennessee case, where someone passed a law which said it was a misdemeanor for any barber to shave, shampoo, cut hair, or keep the bathrooms open on Sunday. Well, of course, I suppose it could be wicked to take a bath on Sunday. I don't know. But that was not the trouble with the statute. The trouble was a barber could not give a bath on Sunday. Anybody else could. And so they held this law was unconstitutional under the provisions of the Constitution, which says laws must be uniform. All right now. I do not question the right of the legislature to fix the courses of study in a school. What the state of Tennessee cannot do is to make it a criminal act for this teacher to teach evolution and then permit books on evolution to be sold in every store and to permit newspapers from foreign countries to bring into your peaceful community the horrible utterances of evolution. No, no, nothing like that. Your Honor knows the fires that have been lighted in America to kindle religious bigotry and hate.
I'm sorry to interrupt your argument, Colonel, but it's adjourning time.
If I may, I can close in 5 minutes.
You can proceed tomorrow, sir.
I shall not talk long, Your Honor. I will tell you this. If today you can take a thing like evolution, make it a crime to teach it in a public school, tomorrow you can make it a crime to teach it in private schools. And the next day in the hustings or in the church. Next session you may ban books and newspapers. You can do the one, you can do the other. And after a while, Your Honor, it is the setting of man against man and creed against creed, until with flying banners and beating drums, we are marching backward to the 16th century, when bigots lighted faggots to burn the men who dared to bring any intelligence and enlightenment and learning to the human mind. Tomorrow, I'll say a few words.
You gentlemen send down your authorities to my room at the hotel on both sides. Court is adjourned to 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
July the 15th, 1925. The net effect of Clarence Darrow's speech seems to be precisely the same as if he had yelled it up a rain spout in the interior of Afghanistan. That is, locally, on the so-called minds of these fundamentalists from Upland, Tennessee. During the whole delivery, the old mountebank Bryan sat tight-lipped and unmoved. He has these hillbillies locked up in his pen, and he knows it. And now, with his political aspirations all gone to pot, he turns to them for religious consolations.
That night, the defense held their daily strategy conference by candlelight. An electric storm had created a power failure, which also prevented Judge Ralston from completing his opinion on the defense motion to quash the indictment. As the storm flashed and thundered around the hills, Darrow glumly predicted that should lightning strike their meeting, it would be seen by many as nothing more than the just hand of Providence. During their conference that evening, the defense had decided on a tactic to highlight the religious nature of the case. The third day of the trial was as hot as ever, 97 degrees.
Reverend Striblin, would you open the court with prayer?
Father?
Your Honor, I want to make an objection before the jury comes in.
What is it, Colonel Darrow?
I object to prayer. I object to the jury being present when the court rules on the objection.
What is it?
Colonel Darrow objects to the court being opened with prayer.
Why?
Especially in the presence of the jury.
Well, Your Honor.
Yes, General Stewart.
The jury is not here.
Are there any jury in the courtroom? No. Now, I do not want to be unreasonable about anything, but it has been my custom since I've been a judge to have prayers in the courtroom when it was convenient, and I know of no reason I should not go on with this custom, so I will overrule the objection.
Father?
Just a minute.
Yes.
Now, I understand from His Honor that he has sometimes opened court with prayer, and sometimes not. Now, we took no exception on the first day, but seeing this has persisted, and this case is one where it's claimed by the state that there's a conflict between science and religion, and above all other cases, there should be no attempt, by means of prayer or in any other way, to influence the consideration of the jury on the facts of this case.
You have a right to put your exceptions on the record for later appeal.
The state makes no contention that this is a conflict between science and religion. It is a case involving the fact as to whether or not a school teacher has taught a doctrine prohibited by statute. And such an idea, extended by the Agnostic Council for the Defense, is foreign to the thoughts and ideas of the people.
May I take an exception to the statement, Agnostic Council for the Defense?
Your Honor, those prayers we've already heard have been duly argumentative. They help to increase an atmosphere of hostility to our point of view.
So far as creating an atmosphere of hostility is concerned, I would advise Mr. Malone that this is a God-fearing country.
And it is no more God-fearing than that from which I come and in which I live.
Gentlemen, do not turn this into an argument.
I'd like to reply to counsel that this statute says no doctrine shall be taught which is contrary to the divine account contained in the Bible. There's no question about the religious character of these proceedings.
This court has no purpose except to find truth and do justice to all issues involved in this case. I've instructed the ministers who have been invited to my rostrum to open the court with prayer to make no references to the issues involved in this case. I see nothing that might influence the court or the jury as to the issues. Therefore, I am pledged to overrule the objection of counsel and invite Dr. Striblin to open the court with prayer.
I note an exception, Your Honor.
Dr. Striblin, please.
Father.
Go ahead.
To thee we give praise for every good thing in life.
As the prayer ended, Ralston adjourned the court while he continued working on his opinion as to whether the case should proceed. However, when the court reconvened late in the afternoon, the defense raised the issue of prayers again.
Court will come to order. I have a most important...
Before Your Honor presents a decision or the proceedings go further, may I present a petition to the court addressed to yourself? It reads, "We, the following named representatives of various well-known religious organizations, do hereby petition, Your Honor, that if you continue opening the court of Ray County
Your
with
Honor,
prayer...
just a minute. I submit that Colonel Hayes is absolutely out of order.
Mr. Stewart?
This is not an assembly met for any purpose of hearing a motion of that sort or anything of that sort. Your Honor has passed upon the motion.
I insist upon making this motion.
I am making my exception to the court. Would you please keep your mouth shut?
Will Your Honor hear my motion?
Yes, I will hear.
It is entirely out of order, and I accept to it with all the vehemence of my nature.
It goes on. If you continue opening the court with prayer, you must select officiating clergymen from among other than fundamentalist churches, in alternation with fundamentalist clergymen." End quote. The signatories are eminent men from various denominations, Your Honor, a rabbi, 2 Unitarians, and a Congregationalist.
Well, I shall ask the Pastors Association from now on to name the man who's to conduct prayer.
Your Honor knows that the men Your Honor refers this motion to are not among the class of men that signed this petition.
Some, or perhaps fundamentalists, I don't know.
Days of baking heat, along with delays in the judge's decision, were fueling an already hostile situation. Attorney General Stewart was still angry over Hayes' use of the clergyman's petition.
What does he think this is, a political convention?
Bryan was also critical.
This is a concerted attack upon revealed religion that is being made by a minority of atheists, agnostics, and infidels.
As Malone left court, he told a reporter,
"It's going to be mighty rough from now on."
That evening, at last, the defense lawyers took some time to relax. They enjoyed dinner with a distant relative, Big Joe Mendy, the chimpanzee who ate ketchup, daintily, with a spoon. The court opened on Wednesday, when at last Ralston presented his ruling on whether the case would continue.
The courts are not concerned in questions of public policy, and the motive or wisdom of a statute is responsibility of the legislature, not of these courts. Indeed, this court has no jurisdiction to pass on this question. Next, I do not see how this statute unlawfully deprives a defendant on any of his liberties, privileges, or property. Public schools are not maintained as places of worship, and the relationship between the teacher and his employer are purely contractual. And if his conscience constrains him to teach evolution, he can find opportunities elsewhere. The court, having passed on each ground, is now pleased to overrule the whole motion and require the defendant to plead further.
So after 3.5 days jockeying for legal advantage, the trial began in earnest, and Scopes pleaded not guilty.
July the 14th, 1925. Even though everyone on both sides expects the jury to bring in a verdict of guilty, there is, in fact, considerable heat in the trial. Bryan and local lawyers for the state sit glaring at the defense all day. And Attorney General Stewart has shown such pugnacity, it has brought him to forced apologies.
The prosecution was determined to limit the trial to simply establishing that Scopes was guilty of his teaching offense. Stewart, who estimated that his whole case would take only an hour, simply reiterated the indictment as his opening statement. The defense believed that with the experts they intended calling, their case would take weeks. Dudley Malone, the New York Irish Catholic divorce lawyer, began preparing the ground.
We will show by the testimony of men learned in science and theology that there are millions of people who believe in evolution and in the creation story set forth in the Bible, and who, unlike us, find no conflict between the two. The defense maintains that such opinions are a matter of faith and interpretation, which each individual must determine for himself. The defense also thinks there's no conflict between evolution and Christianity. There may be between evolution and peculiar ideas of Christianity, which are held by Mr. Bryan. But we deny that the evangelical leader of the prosecution is an authorized spokesman for the Christians of the United States. Now, I wish to read from a commentary in praise of Jefferson's original Statute of Religious Freedom in the Constitution of Virginia. The commentary reads, quote, Jefferson set forth the main reasons urged by those who believed in religious freedom. He said that to attempt to compel people to accept a religious doctrine by act of law was to make not Christians, but hypocrites. End quote. And what could be more true than this statement? And who wrote those words? This commentary was written by William Jennings Bryan. And the defense appeals against his fundamentalist views of today and reminds him of his philosophical views of yesterday when he was a modernist to our point of view.
Your Honor, I accept to that part of the statement that was brought in Mr. Bryan's name and further.
My relations with Mr. Bryan have been such for so many years, he would be the last one to think that anything I have to say here would have my personality in it. And I do not think, Your Honor, that Mr. Bryan is the least sensitive about it.
Not a bit. The court can do as it pleases in carrying out its rules. I ask no protection from the court. And when the proper time comes, I shall be able to show the gentleman that I stand today just where I did. And that those comments of mine have nothing to do with the case at bar.
One of the reasons for the defense...
The jury is present now. And I cannot tolerate any expression of feeling on the issues in this case at all in the presence of the jury.
H.L. Mencken was watching the demonstration that followed Bryan's first intervention.
Bryan is no longer thought of as a politician and a job seeker in these godly regions, but has become half man and half archangel. In brief, a sort of fundamentalist pope.
Can I continue?
Proceed, yes, Colonel Malone.
Thank you, Your Honor. We shall prove that Christianity is bound up with no scientific theory and that it has survived 2,000 years in the face of all the discoveries of science. And for the purpose of illustration, we will show from embryology the development of a child from a single cell to its birth. We shall show how during its development in the womb, it actually recapitulates the stages of evolution. And finally, the defense denies that it is part of any movement or conspiracy on the part of scientists to destroy the authority of Christianity or the Bible. The defense maintains that Genesis is in part a hymn, in part an allegory, written by men who believed the world was flat, and whose authority simply cannot be accepted to control the teachings of science in our schools. We maintain that science and religion embrace two separate and distinct fields of thought and learning. And we remember what Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's."
Amen. Have you finished, Colonel Malone?
Yes, sir.
Then I will instruct the jury that while it is their duty to hear this statement, it is not evidence and not to be considered in determining the issues. Are there any further statement from the state side?
None whatever.
After the jury was sworn in, the prosecution called its first witness, Walter White, superintendent of the Ray County Schools.
I promise to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you. Mr. White, you were one of those present at the meeting at Robinson's drugstore which began this case?
Yes, sir.
Were you at that time discussing this new law that was passed?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Scopes came up while Mr. Rapellion, Mr. Robinson, and I were discussing this, and then we all discussed it for a little while after the crowd scattered.
Did he say to you that he had taught that part that pertained to evolution?
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He admitted he had taught that. He said he could not teach that book without teaching that, and he could not teach that without violating the statute.
Did the defendant say it was unconstitutional?
He defended his course by saying that the statute was unconstitutional.
Colonel Darrell.
Mr. Witness, will you please speak out loud for the reporters? This book of Hunter's, what's the name of the book?
It's George William Hunter's Civic Biology.
Where did Mr. Scopes get it?
Mr. Robinson, the bookman for the section handled the books.
That was the official book adopted by the commission, was it not?
Yes, since 1919, but the contract expired August 31st, 1920.
Now, do you know how long this book's been used?
It has been used since 1909.
That is all.
Step down.
Your name is Howard Morgan?
Yes, sir.
And how old are you?
14 years old, sir.
Now, just state in your own words, Howard, what Professor Scopes taught you and when it was.
Yes, sir. It was along about April 2nd, and he said the Earth was once a hot molten mass too hot for plants or animal life to exist upon it. And in the sea, the Earth cooled off, and there was a germ of one-celled organism formed. And this organism kept evolving to be a pretty good-sized animal, and then became on to be a land animal. And from this was man.
It's good. Now, Howard, how did he classify man with reference to other animals? What did he say about them?
Well, the book and Mr. Scopes both classified man, along with cats and dogs and horses and cows and monkeys and lions and all that.
And what did they say they were?
Mammals.
And he classified them along with cats and dogs, horses, monkeys, and cows?
Yes, sir.
Cross-examine, Colonel Darrell.
Now, Howard, what do you mean by classify?
Well, classify meaning that these animals we mentioned, that men were just the same as them. In other words, they...
He didn't say a cat was the same as a man.
Well, no, sir. He said that man had a reasoning power that these animals did not.
There's some doubt about that. That is what he said, is it?
It is with some men.
Oh, a great many. Now, Howard, he said they were all mammals, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
But he tell you what distinguished mammals from other animals?
I don't remember.
But he said dogs and horses and monkeys, cows, man, whales are all mammals?
Yes, sir. But I don't know about the whales. He said all the other ones.
Let's have order.
And you didn't know that the definition of a mammal was a species that suckled its young, did you?
No, sir.
Well, did he tell you anything else that was wicked?
No, sir, not that I remember of.
Not hurt you in any way, has it?
No, sir.
Colonel Hayes?
Yes, Howard. Is there anything in this book that says man is descended from a monkey?
No, sir, not that I know of.
That's all.
The last witness to appear for the prosecution was F.E. Robinson, in whose drugstore the famous meeting took place which started the case. Stewart took him through the story, having him describe Scopes' admission that in teaching evolution he was indeed breaking the law. Then Darrow picked up the cross-examination.
General Stewart showed you a book, Civic Biology, which I hold in my hand. You were selling them, were you not?
Oh, yes, sir.
And you were also a member of the school board.
Yes, sir.
Huh. I think someone ought to advise you you're not bound to answer these questions.
The law says teach, not sell, Mr. Darrell.
Well, now, would you please read it, page 194 and 195? It's not been read.
The doctrine of evolution. We have now learned that animal forms may be arranged so as to begin with very simple one-cell forms and culminate with a group which contains man himself. This arrangement is called the evolutionary series, and geology teaches that millions of years ago life upon Earth was very simple, and then gradually more and more complex forms of life appeared.
And this part on page 195 on man's relationship with the monkeys?
Just go right on.
Well, I'm going to. You have underscored part of it. I want to read that too. Quote, in their method of learning, although monkeys do not reach the human stage of a right life of ideas, yet in a number of things he learns, the complex habits he can form, the variety of lines along which he can learn them, the monkey justifies his inclusion with man in a separate mental genus. End quote. That's what was read in class?
Yes, sir.
How do you get these books, Mr. Robinson?
From the State Depository at Chattanooga.
You got them from the state authorities, and they were adopted?
By the State Board of Education? Yes, sir.
Perhaps as Mr. Darrow has seen fit to read from that part of the biology. Your Honor, I want at this point to read the first 2 chapters of Genesis in order to get it into the record.
You may proceed, General Stewart.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the
As
earth
Stewart
was
read the
without
well-known
form,
verses,
void.
thus ensuring that no move of the defense went unmatched, Bryan sat beaming at the court. But when the first defense witness, the eminent zoologist Maynard Metcalf, took the stand, Mencken witnessed Bryan behaving very strangely.
At first question, Bryan came out from behind the state's table and planted himself not 10 feet away from Dr. Metcalf.
Give us your name.
Maynard M. Metcalf.
Dr. Metcalf.
Just a moment. I do not mean to interrupt, but as to a matter of procedure, we have a rule in this state that precludes the defendant, John Scopes, from taking a stand if he does not take the stand first.
Your Honor, every single word the prosecution witnesses have said against the defendant was true.
So he does not care to go on the stand?
No. What's the use?
Well, that is all.
Dr. Metcalf, are you an evolutionist?
Surely under certain circumstances this question would be an insult, but under these circumstances I do not regard it as such.
Do you know any scientific man in the world who is not an evolutionist?
We accept to that, of course. Though if you'd like, we could bring all the scientists in and they could take a vote.
Our whole case depends upon proving that evolution is a reasonable scientific theory.
I do not know how you can prove it reasonable by proving what some other person believes. That would be hearsay testimony.
Yes, but we expect to prove what all science says.
Then bring them here and offer them. I will hear you. Exception sustained.
Professor Metcalf, what would you say? That theoretically all science...
Your Honor, as we do not yet know if his evidence will be admissible, I suggest the court reporter and counsel go close to the witness so that they can hear, but the jury cannot.
As you say, Mr. Stewart.
So what would you say, that practically all scientists were or were not evolutionists?
I am absolutely convinced from personal knowledge that any one of these men feel evolution is a fact. I doubt if any 2 of them agree as to the exact method by which evolution came about.
Will you state then what evolution is with regard to the origin of man?
We accept to that.
How is that?
We are accepting, Your Honor, that everything here that mentions evolution or refers to the conflict between the story of divine creation and evolution on the grounds that the jury should be...
Is the jury, only one of whom has ever read about evolution, expected to pass on the question without even knowing what it is?
Your Honor, we want the jury excluded now. We do not want them to hear any more questions along this line.
And so the jury, much to their annoyance, again left the court to wait the judge's ruling on whether they could hear the expert evidence. Darrow was left to question Metcalf for the record, for possible use in a later appeal.
And so, Dr. Metcalf, when did the earliest organism appear?
It's awfully hard to answer in years. Geologists talk in ages, not years.
More than 6,000 years?
I would say 600 million years is a modest guess. And during this time, this whole great fundamental evolutionary series seen throughout the whole realm of organic life has continued, making it extremely probable that man has evolved in the same fashion.
July the 15th, 1925. Metcalf's was one of the clearest and most eloquent presentations of the case for evolution that I have ever heard. The doctor was never at a loss for a second, but there was no cocksureness in him. And what he got over was a superb counterblast to the fundamentalist bunkum. The jury, at least in theory, heard nothing of it, but it went whooping into the radio and banging into the face of Bryan.
The next morning, Thursday, the legal wrangle began on whether to admit the defense's expert evidence. Ben McKenzie, the former Attorney General, famed in Dayton as a joker and a raconteur, made the prosecution case.
May it please Your Honor, I do not want to be heard but for a very few moments. Now, I want to say this. Since the beginning of this lawsuit, since I began to meet these distinguished gentlemen, I have begun to love them. Everyone. It's a very easy task. I love the great man. But to the issue, controversy in this case, I honestly believe this act construes itself. There's not one thing that is ambiguous about it. We have done crossed the Rubicon. Your Honor is held. The act was reasonable. Tennessee had the right to prescribe any common school curriculum it desired. That never left anything on the face of the earth to determine, except as to the guilt or innocence of the defendant in violating that act.
But the defense are trying to reconcile the divine story with the theory of evolution.
Oh, they are, Your Honor, they are. Yeah. And with the evidence of their scientists, they're trying to put words into God's mouth. So when he said, "And God created man in his own image out of the dust of the ground," well, they would have him say instead that he issued some sort of a protoplasm or a soft dish rag, and he put it in the ocean. And he said, "Old boy, you wait around about 6,000 years, and I will make something out of you." No, the divine story is a much more reasonable story to me than that.
The next to speak for the prosecution against the use of expert witnesses was to be William Jennings Bryan himself.
Word that the great Bryan was to speak made the courthouse a magnet. And long before the afternoon session, the courtroom was filled. Outside, under the cool of the cottonwood trees, even greater crowds gathered to hear the stories from the brazen mouths of the loudspeakers, and the whole town was one great sounding board of oratory.
So, here we have this book, Mr. Hunter's Civic Biology, the book Mr. Scopes was teaching. Has the court seen this diagram?
No, sir, I have not.
Well, you must see it. On page 194, it purports to give someone's family tree. Man, I think. Not only his ancestors, but his collateral relatives as well. 518,900 of them. Yes. And in this diagram, beginning with the protozoa, we have the animals classified and different increasingly highly developed groups branching off. There are 8,000 protozoans, 3,500 sponges. From some I have seen, I would say there must be 35,000 sponges. And now we get to the insects, 360,000 of them. And in the hot weather, we feel we become intimately acquainted with every one of them. Now we're getting up near our kinsfolk, 13,000 birds, 3,500 reptiles, 13,000 fishes. Same number as birds. Well. And then we have mammals. 3,500. And there is a little circle, and man is in that circle. Find him. Find man. There's that book from which they were teaching your children that man was a mammal and so indistinguishable among the other mammals that they leave him there with 3,499 other mammals, including elephants. Talk about putting Daniel in the lion's den. How dare those scientists put man in a little ring like that with lions and tigers and everything that is bad? Not only that is evolution possible, but the scientists possibly think of shutting man up in a little circle like that with all these animals that have an odor that extends way beyond the circumference of the circle, my friends. Mr. Scopes tells the children to copy this diagram, which detaches them from the throne of God and links their ancestors with the jungle. Then, my friend, if they believe it, they go back to scoff at the religion of their parents. But these parents have a right to say that no teacher paid by their money shall rob their children of faith in God and send them back to their houses skeptical infidels or agnostics or atheists.
You've just heard part 1 of the Great Tennessee Monkey Trial, recorded live in performance after a hugely successful nationwide tour in the United States. Join us next week for the conclusion. I'm Damiano Pietropaolo. Good night. Last week in part 1, we left Mr. William Jennings Bryan in mid-rhetorical flight on the place of man in Darwin's evolutionary scheme. Now let's join Edward Asner, starring as William Jennings Bryan, as the trial rages on.
Now, my friends, I beg pardon, if the court please. I have been so in the habit of talking to an audience instead of a court that I will sometimes say my friends, even though I know full well that not all of them are my friends. If the gentlemen will brace themselves for a moment, I will say I am a member of the American Academy for the Advancement of Science. Yes. And they invited Mr. Bateson, a famous British scientist and a descendant of Darwin, to come over and speak to them on evolution. And Bateson told those people that there's not a single scientist in all the world who can trace one single species to any other. They call us bigots and ignoramuses, and yet they demand that we allow them to teach this stuff to our children. They take up life as a mystery that nobody can explain. Not one word about God at the back of it. They want you to let them commence there and ask no questions. They do not explain the great riddle of the universe. They do not deal with the problems of life. They do not teach the great science of how to live. And yet they would undermine the faith of those little children in that God who promises we shall live with him by and by. There is no place for miracles in this train of evolution. And they eliminate everything supernatural from the Old Testament as well as the New, including they eliminate the virgin birth, the resurrection of the body, and with it the doctrine of atonement. They believe that man has been rising all the time, that he never fell, and that when the Savior came, there was no reason for his coming, and that he was born of Joseph or some other co-respondent, and that he lives in his grave. It is a doctrine that not only destroys their belief in God, but robs from them every moral standard that the Bible gives us. It is this doctrine which gives us Nietzsche, the great writer who tried to carry this Darwinism, this survival of the fittest, to its logical conclusion with his philosophy of the Superman, the supreme being who is unaffected by suffering, who has no pity or tolerance for the weak. And we have the testimony of my distinguished friend from Chicago in the Leopold and Loeb murder case that Lee calls Leopold read Nietzsche. The boy was not responsible for his premeditated murder of a weaker fellow student.
There's not a word of truth in this, Your Honor. Nietzsche never taught that.
I will read you what you said in that speech here.
If you will read it all.
I will read that part I want. You can read the rest. The book is for sale. There it is, page 84. Is there any blame attached because somebody took Nietzsche's philosophy seriously and fashioned his life on it? The university would be more to blame than he is. Now, my friends, Mr. Darrow asked young Howard Morgan, did it hurt you? Did it cause you any harm? Why did he not ask the boy's mother?
She did not testify.
No, but why did you not bring her here to testify?
You, sir.
Your Honor, here we have our greatest criminal lawyer stating that it is the universities, the teachers, who are poisoning the minds of our children.
I object to an injection of the Leopold and Loeb case into this one.
This issue between believer and unbeliever is bigger than any court, and we are not going to settle that issue here with however many experts. The Bible is the Word of God. The Bible is the only expression of man's hope of salvation. That Bible is not going to be driven out of this court by experts who have come hundreds of miles to testify that they can reconcile evolution and its ancestor in the jungle with a man made by God in his image and put here for purposes as part of the divine plan.
Bring the court to order. Colonel Darrow, you have a statement?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Following what Mr. Bryan read, I went on to say, and I quote, "But you cannot destroy thought because some brain may be deranged by a thought. Every new religious doctrine has created its victims. No great ideal but does good and harm. And we cannot stop because it may do harm."
All right, Colonel. Be certain to return Mr. Bryan his book. Colonel Malone, you speak last for the defense.
Next up was Dudley Malone, formerly an assistant to Bryan in his State Department days.
In the stifling heat, Mr. Malone, of all of us, had been the only one to remain fully clothed. Everyone had remarked on it. But now, as he rose to answer Bryan, he carefully took off his jacket, folded it neatly, and laid it carefully on the counsel's table. Every eye was on him before he said a single word.
If the court please, it does seem to me that we have gone far afield in this discussion. The heart of this matter, Your Honor, is whether there is liability under this law. What does this law, this Butler Act, do? Now, we've been told here that it is not about a religious question. I defy anybody after Mr. Bryan's speech to believe that it is not a religious question. Moreover, the prosecution has to prove its case. The defense doesn't have to prove it for them. And we maintain our right to present our own defense, our own theory, because we maintain that even if everything the state has said in his testimony be true, and we admit that it is true, then the defendant, Scopes, still has not violated this statute. To explain, let us for a moment take this law, which says, quote, "It shall be unlawful to teach any theory that denies the story of divine creation of man as taught in the Bible, and to teach that man is descended from a lower order of animals," end quote. It doesn't say or, it says and. So the prosecution has to prove not only that Scopes taught evolutionary theory, but that he taught the theory that denies the theory of divine creation in the Bible. So we believe we have a right to introduce evidence from witnesses to show that Scopes' evolutionary theory is not in conflict with the theory of creation in the Bible. But these gentlemen say the Bible contains the truth. If the world of science can produce any truth or facts not in the Bible as we understand it, then destroy science and keep our Bible. But we say, keep your Bible. keep it as your consolation. Keep it as your guide, but keep it where it belongs, in the world of your conscience, in the world of theology. And do not try to tell an intelligent world that this book, written by men who knew none of the accepted fundamental facts of science, can be put into a course of science. Because what's it doing there?
Colonel Malone, is it your opinion that the theory of evolution is reconcilable with the divine story as told in the Bible?
Yes, sir.
And that out of that one single life cell, God created man by a process of growth or development? Is that your theory?
Yes, sir, but that's just one way, Your Honor. It could happen in many ways, but what we ask for is the right to testify in support of our view that the Bible is not to be taken literally.
But that is your opinion.
Yes. Yes, the issue is as broad as Mr. Bryan has published it. And why? Why this fear of meeting the issue? My old chief, Mr. Bryan, I never saw him back away from a great issue before. And I would like to ask the court if there's any evidence in the witnesses produced by the prosecution of any moral deterioration due to the course of biology which Professor Scopes taught these children, the young man who said he had not been hurt by it. Do they have us believe that the teachers and scientists of this country are in a combination to destroy the morals of the children to whom they have dedicated their lives? Are preachers the only ones who care about our youth? We have no fears about the young people of America. They're a pretty smart generation, and we've just had a war with 20 million dead. Civilization need not be so proud of what the grown-ups have done. For God's sake, let the children have their minds kept open. Close no doors to their knowledge. Let them have both theology and science. Let them both be taught. We want everything we have to say on science and religion told, and we are ready to submit our theories to the direct and cross-examination by the prosecution. We have come here ready for battle, for a duel. Is our only weapon the witnesses who shall testify to the accuracy of our theory to be taken from us? That's not my idea of a duel. But there isn't going to be a duel. There is never a duel with the truth. The truth always wins, and we are not afraid of it. The truth is no coward. The truth does not need the law or Mr. Bryan. The truth is imperishable, eternal, and immortal, and needs no human agency to support it. We are ready to tell the truth as we understand it. We feel we stand with progress, with intelligence, with science. Where is the fear? We defy it. We ask Your Honor to admit the evidence as a matter of correct law, as a matter of sound procedure, and as a matter of justice to the defense in this case.
The courtroom went wild when Mr. Malone finished. The Chattanooga policemen applauded too, pounding the table with a nightstick and actually splitting the tabletop. The judge couldn't control it, but I was concentrating on watching Bryan, and I realized that Malone had penetrated his flinty armor. There was only dejection on his face. The victory that had been his only minutes before was suddenly disastrously dissipated. Several minutes later, the courtroom was cleared, and only 3 persons remained: Bryan, Malone, and I. Bryan was sitting alone in his chair, and as he tried to cool himself, he would let the palm leaf drop, and then he would stare at a spot in front of him. Then, without turning, he said,
"Dudley, that was the greatest speech I ever heard."
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. I'm sorry it was I who had to make it.
I shall never forget that moment.
The night following Malone and Bryan's powerful speeches, Dayton's weary telegraphers worked until the early morning hours. The reports they sent showed how uncompromising this battle for the nation's hearts and minds was becoming. Friday, July 17th, a short but eventful day, began with Judge Ralston's ruling.
In Tennessee, an act should be construed to carry out the purpose for which it is intended. And in this case, the legislature clarified their intention for the act as a whole when they stated that it was unlawful to teach that man descended from a lower order of animals. The ordinary, non-expert mind can comprehend this simple language. Descended from a lower order of animals. It's not ambiguous or complex. Though I personally would suggest the substitution of the word ascend for the word descend. And if the court is correct in this, then there's no justification for calling expert witnesses to explain. Therefore, the court is content to sustain the notices of the Attorney General, General Stewart, to exclude the expert testimony, the purpose of which is to explain the origin of man and life in this world.
Your Honor, will permit me to take an exception? We say it is a denial of justice not to permit the defense to make its case on its own theory. And I also accept, because for the court to make its determination without hearing evidence assumes it has full knowledge on a subject which has been under study for generations.
Let the exception be entered on the record.
I desire to accept to the exceptions of the court's ruling. I think it is a reflection on the court.
May I respectfully move that the court hear evidence in order to inform itself in the presence of the court only and in the absence of the jury?
Your Honor, they are entitled to have sufficient testimony in the record to enable the Supreme Court to pass upon the proposition, but they have no right to conduct a long, drawn-out examination and make a farce of Your Honor's opinion.
Your Honor, we have no intention
May I ask if these witnesses are allowed to testify as experts for the information of the judge? I presume they will be subject to cross-examination.
They will if they go on the stand.
We have a right to present our case to another court. That's what we're after. They have no rights whatsoever to cross-examine any witness when we're offering simply what we expect to prove. The purpose of cross-examination is to be used on a trial, never on the placing of evidence on the record.
Well, I would say this. If the defense wants to put their proof in the record in the form of affidavits, of course, they can do that. If they put the witness on the stand and the state decides to cross-examine them, I shall expect them to do so.
We accept to it and take an exception.
Yes, sir. You always expect this court to rule correctly.
No, sir, we do not.
I suppose you anticipated it?
Otherwise, we would not be taking exceptions here, Your Honor. We expect to protect our rights in some other court. That's plain enough, isn't it? And we will make statements of what we expect to prove. Can we have the rest of the day to draft them?
I would not say that this court...
If Your Honor takes half a day to write an opinion...
I'm not taking half a day.
We expect to make statements here of what we expect to prove. I do not understand why every request of the state and every suggestion of the prosecution should meet with an endless waste of time, and a bare suggestion of anything that is perfectly competent on our part should be immediately overruled.
I hope that you do not mean to reflect upon this court.
Well, Your Honor has the right to hope.
I have the right to do something else, perhaps.
All right.
May it please the court, I understand that the defense has decided to put on no witnesses, but simply to present affidavits?
That is it, to present statements.
That Friday morning, as the court adjourned until after the weekend to allow the defense experts to complete their affidavits, it seemed to observers like H.L. Mencken that the case was over, effectively over. But Monday promised excitements none of the departing journalists had expected.
On last Friday, contempt and insult were expressed in this court by Mr. Clarence Darrow for the court and its orders and decrees. And therefore, I order that the instance of citation for contempt be served upon said Clarence Darrow, requiring him to appear here on Tuesday, July 21st, to make answer. He will be required to execute a bond for $5,000 and not depart this court without leave.
What is the bond, Your Honor?
$5,000.
I'm expected to put up this money?
Yes, sir, when the papers are served.
I don't know whether I could find
Pardon
any.
me. Excuse me. Sorry, Your Honor, forgive me. My name is Frank Spurlock, Your Honor. If Mr. Darrow is willing, I can provide the bond.
Well, thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Spurlock. Let the day's proceedings commence.
After the initial shock of Ralston's citation, the day settled to its predicted course. 8 scientists provided written statements, and Arthur Hayes was allowed to read from some of them. One was prepared by the Hebrew Bible scholar, Rabbi Herman Rosenwasser, whose evidence threw new light on the biblical account.
In the translation of the Hebrew Bible, from which the King James Protestant version is derived, there are many errors. The word create purports to be a translation of the word bara. Now this word, bara, is used to represent the whole cosmic scheme, and the correct translation is to set in motion. From that incorrect translation, great confusion has resulted. Then, in the first chapter of Genesis, the word Adam is used. The word Adam, or Adam, does not mean a man, but actually any living organism containing blood. If this is a lower order of animal, then Genesis itself teaches that man is descended from a lower order of animals. If the Hebrew Bible were properly translated and understood, one would find no conflict with the theory of evolution that would prevent him from accepting both.
And so the accumulation of evidence continued. In readiness, everyone thought, for the appeal to the federal court. But just after lunch, Darrow asked to speak.
Your Honor, I've been practicing law for 47 years. I've had many a case fighting the public opinion of the people of the community. And never have I been criticized for anything I've ever done in court. I do think, however, Your Honor, that I went further than I should have done. I overstepped the mark, and Your Honor could not help but take notice of it. Personally, I don't think it constitutes a contempt, but I am quite certain that the remark should not have been made, and I am sorry, and I want to apologize to the court.
Anyone anything else to say? Then, my friends, and Colonel Darrow, the man that I believe came into this world to save man from sin taught that it was godly to forgive, and I believe in that Christ. And I believe in those principles, and I accept Colonel Darrow's apology.
Not for the first time, the defense was reminded that in this court, Christianity represented so much more than just civil ritual. Immediately after Darrow's apology, the judge had to contend with another problem: the state of the courtroom floor. There were rumors of cracks in the ceiling downstairs, creating fears of an imminent collapse. However, instead of reducing the numbers in court, the judge, believing that the wider audience outside would welcome hearing the closing speeches, moved the entire proceedings to the speaker's platform on the courthouse lawn. Shortly after arriving outside, Darrow attempted to, and succeeded in having, yet another Read Your Bible banner some 10 feet long removed from in front of the jury. Then, the defense made their surprise move.
The defense desires to call Mr. Bryan as a witness. And of course, if the only question here is whether Mr. Scopes taught what these children said he taught, we recognize what Mr. Bryan says as a witness could not be very valuable. But we think there are other questions involved, and we should like Mr. Bryan's testimony for the purpose of our record, even if Your Honor does not think it admissible in general. So, we should like to call him now.
Do you think you have a right to his testimony or evidence like you did the others? If you ask him about any confidential matters, I will protect him, of course.
I do not intend to do that, Your Honor. As to the scientific matters, Colonel Bryan can speak for himself.
If Your Honor please, I insist that Mr. Darrow can be put on the stand, and Mr. Malone, and Mr. Hayes.
Call anybody you desire. Ask any questions you wish.
Oh, then we will call all three of them.
Not at once.
Where do you want me to sit?
Mr. Bryan, you're not objecting to going on the stand?
Oh, no, not at all.
Well, these are extraordinary circumstances. You want Mr. Bryan sworn?
Oh, no, I expect you'll tell the truth, Mr. Bryan.
Mm-hmm. The news that Darrow was to question Bryan spread rapidly throughout the town. And in a short while, the 500 who had left the courthouse swelled to over 3,000 spread out across the lawn. 2 years earlier, Darrow had challenged Bryan in the press with a series of questions on the literal truth of the Bible. Bryan had refused to respond, largely because, as he had already explained in court, his main concerns with Darwinism were what he saw as its corrosive moral and social effects. However, in accepting this new challenge, Bryan had given Darrow the whip hand to ask him whatever it was he wanted.
You've given considerable study to the Bible, haven't you, Mr. Bryan?
Yes, sir, I've tried to.
Well, we all know you have. Not going to dispute that at all, but you have written and published articles almost weekly and sometimes have made interpretations of various things.
I would not say interpretations, Mr. Darrow, but comments on the lesson.
But you have made a general study of it?
Yes, I have. I've studied the Bible for about 50 years, or sometime more than that. I have studied it more as I have grown older than when I was but a boy.
And you claim that everything in the Bible must be literally interpreted?
I believe everything in the Bible should be accepted as it is given there. Some of the Bible is given illustratively. For instance, ye are the salt of the earth. I would not insist that man is actually salt or that he has flesh of salt. But it is used in the sense of salt as saving God's people.
But when you read that Jonah swallowed the whale, or the whale swallowed Jonah, that was, excuse me, please. How do you literally interpret that?
When I read that a big fish swallowed Jonah, it does not say whale.
Doesn't it?
No.
You sure?
Yes. That is my recollection of it, a big fish. And I believe it. And I believe in a God that can make a whale and can make a man and can make both do as he pleases.
Well, now you say this big fish swallowed Jonah, and he remained, how long? 3 days. And then he spewed him up on the sand. You believe that big fish was made to swallow Jonah?
No, I'm not fair to say that. The Bible merely says it was done.
You don't know whether it was in the ordinary line of fish or made for that purpose?
You may guess. You evolutionists guess.
Yeah, but when we do guess, we have the sense to guess right.
But you do not do it often. Let me add one miracle just as easy to believe as another miracle.
It's for me.
Yes, for me.
Just as hard?
No, it's hard to believe for you, but easy for me. A miracle is a thing performed beyond what man can perform. When you get beyond what man can do, you get within the realm of miracles. And it's just as easy to believe in the miracle of Jonah as any other miracle in the Bible.
Perfectly easy to believe that Jonah swallowed the whale.
If the Bible said so. But the Bible doesn't make as extreme statements as evolutionists do.
It may be a question, Mr. Bryan, about some of those you've known.
Well, the only thing is you use a definition of fact that includes imagination.
You have a definition of fact which is nothing but imagination.
I object to that as argumentative.
The witness must not argue with me either. Now, the Bible says Joshua commanded the sun to stand still for the purpose of lengthening the day, doesn't it? You believe it?
I do.
You believe the men who wrote it thought the day could be lengthened or the sun could be stopped?
I want to object, Your Honor. It has gone beyond the pale of any issue that could possibly be injected into this lawsuit except by imagination.
I will hear Mr. Bryan.
It seems to me it would be too exacting to confine the defense to the facts. If they're not allowed to get away from the facts, what are they to deal with?
Mr. Bryan is willing to be examined. Go ahead.
Have you an opinion as to whether whoever wrote the book, book of Joshua, thought the sun went around the earth or not?
I believe he was inspired.
Can you answer my question?
When you let me finish the statement.
It's a simple question, but finish it.
You cannot measure the length of my answers by the length of your question.
No, except the answer will be longer.
I believe the author of the Bible was inspired by the Almighty. And he may have been directed to use language that could be understood at that time instead of using language that could not be understood till Darrow was born.
So don't you believe that in order to explain the lengthening of the day, it would have had to have been construed that the earth stood still?
I would not attempt to say that would have been necessary. But if my puny hand can lift up a glass of water and overcome the all-powerful law of gravitation, I would not set limit to the power of the hand of the Almighty God that made the universe.
Oh, I read that years ago. Now, can you answer my question directly? If the day was lengthened by stopping either the earth or the sun, it must have been the earth.
Well, I would say so, yes. But saying it was the sun that was made to stand still. That was the understanding at the time. Yes, but we now know that the sun stood still as it was with the earth.
We now know also the sun does stand still?
Well, it does relatively so to the earth, as Mr. Einstein would say.
I ask you if it does stand still.
You know as well as I know.
Better. And the earth moves around it.
Yes. But in saying the sun stood still, the author of the Bible was using language at that time that the people understood.
Now, Mr. Bryan, you ever pondered what would have naturally happened to the earth if it had stood still?
No.
You've not?
No. The God I believe in would have taken care of that, Darrow.
Don't you know that it would have been converted into a molten mass of matter?
You testify to that when you get on the stand. I'll give you a chance.
Don't you believe it?
I would want to hear expert testimony on that.
Ever thought of it?
I've been too busy on things that I thought were of more importance than that.
Mr. Bryan, you believe the story of the flood to be a literal interpretation?
Yes.
When was that flood?
I wouldn't attempt to fix the date.
Well, about 2350 B.C. That estimate's printed in the Bible.
That was the estimate given. I would not say it's accurate.
Don't you know how it's arrived at?
Never made a calculation.
A calculation? From what?
I could not say.
From the generations of man described in the Bible?
I would not want to say that.
What do you think?
I do not think about things I don't think about.
Do you think about things you do think about?
Well, sometimes.
So you want to say now you have no idea how the dates for this flood were computed?
No, I don't say that. I say I don't know how accurate it was.
Your Honor, I am objecting to his cross-examining his own witness.
He's a hostile witness.
Oh.
I'm going to let Mr. Brown control.
These gentlemen have not had much chance. They did not come here to try the case in hand. They came here to try revealed religion. Now I'm here to defend it, and they can ask me any questions they please.
All right.
Great applause from the bleachers.
No. Yes, from those you call yokels.
Oh, I never called them yokels.
That is the ignorance of Tennessee, the bigots you talk about.
You mean the ones who are applauding you?
Those are the people you insult.
You insult every man of science and learning in the world because he does not believe in your fool religion.
I will not stand for that.
My religion fool.
I'm talking to both of you.
This is going beyond the pale of a lawsuit, Your Honor. I have a public duty to perform under my oath, and I ask the court to stop it. Mr. Darrow is making an effort to insult the gentleman on the witness stand, and I ask that this be stopped.
To stop it now would not be just to Mr. Brown. He wants to ask the other gentleman questions along this same line.
It will all be incompetent.
The jury is not here.
I do not want to be strictly technical.
Your Honor rules, and I accept. How long ago was that flood, Mr. Bryan?
Let me see Archbishop Usher's calculation about it. There are the dates in the margin.
Surely.
Yes, here it is. Given here is 2,348 years B.C.
And you believe that all living things that were not contained in the ark were destroyed?
I think the fish may have lived.
The fish? Mm-hmm. Outside of the fish?
I cannot say.
You cannot say?
No, I accept that just as it is. I have no proof to the contrary.
And you believe that every nation, every organization of men, every animal in the world, outside of the fish, were wiped out by the flood?
At that time.
At that time. Mm-hmm. And then whatever human beings, including all the tribes that inhabited the world and who run their pedigree straight back, and all the animals have come on the earth since the flood.
Yes.
Within 2,300 plus 1920, within 4,200 years. You know a scientific man on earth who believes any such thing?
I cannot say. But I know some scientific men that dispute entirely the antiquity of man as testified to by other scientific men.
Well, that does not answer the question. Let me ask it again.
I don't think I've even asked a scientific man that question.
It's quite important, isn't it?
Well, I don't know that it is.
Are you the only human being on earth who knows what the Bible means?
I object.
Sustain.
I want to take an exception. Well, let me just ask you if you know, if it was interesting enough or important enough for you to try to find out, how old these ancient civilizations are?
No, I've not made a study of it.
Don't you know that the ancient civilizations of China are 6,000 or 7,000 years old at the very least?
No, but they would not run back beyond the creation, according to the Bible, 6,000 years.
You don't know how old they are, is that right?
I don't know how old they are, but possibly you do. I think you would give preference to anybody who opposes the Bible.
Do you have any idea how old the Egyptian civilization is?
No.
You know of any record in the world, outside the story of the Bible, which conforms to any statement that it was 4,300 years ago or thereabouts that all life was wiped off the face of the earth?
I think that they have found records.
You know of any?
Outside the Bible?
Yes.
Records reciting the flood exist in other religions. But the Christian religion has satisfied me, and I have never felt it necessary to look up some competing religion.
Like the religions of Confucius or the Buddha?
I can tell you something about that if you want to know.
Did you ever investigate them?
Somewhat.
You regard them as competitive?
No. I think they are very inferior. There are those, Mr. Darrow, who say that Jesus brought nothing into the world and talk about Confucius's golden rule. But Confucius said, do not do unto others what you would not have done unto you. Now that's purely negative. While Jesus taught, do unto others what you would have done unto you. Now there is all the difference between negative harmlessness and positive Christian helpfulness.
Oh, Mr. Bryan. But do you know how old the Confucian religion is?
No, sir.
You know anything about how many people there were in Egypt 3,500 years ago? How many people in China 5,000 years ago?
No.
You ever try to find out?
No, sir. You're the first man I ever heard of who was interested in it.
Mr. Bryan, am I really the first person you ever heard of who's been interested in the age of human societies and primitive man?
You are the first person I ever heard speak of the numbers of people at these different periods.
Where have you lived all your life?
Not near you.
No, sir, nor anybody a learning.
Oh, I don't assume you know it all.
How don't you know there are thousands of books in your libraries on all these subjects, but you don't care how old the earth is or how old man is and how long the animals have been there?
No, sir, I'm not much interested in that.
All right. You have heard of the Tower of Babel, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
That tower was built up under the ambition they could build a tower to heaven, wasn't it? And God saw what they were at, and it prevented them from getting into heaven. He confused their tongues.
Something like that. I wouldn't say to prevent them getting into heaven.
Now, when was that?
Give us the Bible.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll have strict authority on it. Scientific authority.
That was about 100 years before the flood, Mr. Darrow, according to that chronology.
And up to that time, every human being on earth spoke the same language.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bryan, you know how many languages are spoken on the face of the earth?
No. I know the Bible has been translated into 500. And no other book has been translated into anything like that many.
Interesting, if true. You ever studied philology at all?
No, I never made a study of it. I'm not in the
Mr. Bryan, you don't think much of scientists, do you?
Oh, yes, I do, sir.
Can you name one whose opinion you value on this subject?
I can think of George Price. He was at a notable college in Nebraska, but he's a professor of geology at Lodi in California now.
And that's a small college.
You judge a man by the size of his college. But I would rather find what he believes.
Whether his belief corresponds to your views, your prejudices?
I am no more prejudiced for the Bible than you are against it.
Now, you mention him because he's the only man signing himself as a geologist that believes the like you do.
No. There's a man named Wright who, when you get him up...
We'll get to Mr. Wright in a moment.
All right.
Who publishes Price's book?
Oh, I can't tell you. I can get you the book.
Don't you know it's Revell and Company, Chicago?
I couldn't say.
They publish yours, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Will you let me make an exception? The man's publisher is not pertinent.
He has quoted a man that every scientist in this country knows is a mountebank and a pretender and not a geologist at all.
You can ask him about the man, but don't ask him about who publishes his book.
As you wish. So to return, have you any idea how old the earth is?
No.
The Bible you've introduced into evidence tells you, doesn't it?
I don't think it does.
Well, let's see whether it does. Is this the one?
That's the one, I think.
It says BC 4004.
That is Bishop Ussher's calculation.
So, would you agree that the earth was created 4004 years BC?
Oh, no, I think it is much older than that.
How much?
I couldn't say.
Your Honor, what is the purpose of this examination?
The purpose is to cast ridicule on everybody who believes in the Bible. And I am perfectly willing that the world shall know that these gentlemen have no other purpose than ridiculing every person who believes in the Bible.
We have the purpose of preventing bigots and ignoramuses from controlling the education of the United States, and that is all, and you know it.
Oh, so now we have it from Mr. Darrow's purpose, from his own mouth.
Yes,
and I am trying simply to protect the Word of God against him, the greatest atheist and agnostic in the United States.
I wish I could get a picture of those clackers.
I'm not afraid of Mr. Bryan being perfectly able to take care of himself, but this examination cannot be legal examination. And so, Your Honor, I respectfully accept to it, and I ask in the name of all that is legal to stop this examination and to stop it here.
I rather sympathize with the general, but Mr. Bryan is produced as a witness because he is one of the foremost students of the Bible in the United States. And we hope to show by Mr. Bryan what the Bible really means in connection with evolution. Now, Mr. Bryan has already stated that the world is not merely 6,000 years old. That is very helpful to us. And Mr. Bryan, where is your evidence coming from? This Bible.
No, I don't concede that.
It's absolutely worthless to them, Your Honor, even for the record in the Supreme Court.
Not worth anything when Mr. Bryan, as Bible student, states, you cannot take the Bible as literally true.
The Bible speaks for itself.
Oh, so you mean to say, General Stewart, that the Bible itself states whether these are parables? Does it?
Your Honor, we have lost all sense of procedure. None of this is pertinent. This is just a harangue between Colonel Darrow and his witness.
Your Honor, the reason I'm answering is to keep these gentlemen from saying I was afraid to meet them and let them question me.
Continue, Mr. Darrow.
Mr. Bryan, you believe the first woman was Eve?
Yes.
You believe she was literally made out of Adam's rib?
I do.
Did you ever discover where Cain, Adam and Eve's son, got his wife?
No, sir. I leave the agnostics to hunt for her.
Well, the Bible says he got one, doesn't it? Were there other people on the earth at that time?
I cannot say.
You cannot say? Did that never enter into your consideration?
Never bothered me.
All right. Does the statement, the morning and the evening were the first day, the morning and evening were the second day, mean anything to you?
I do not think it necessarily means a 24-hour day.
You do not?
No.
What do you consider it to be?
I've not attempted to explain it. You'll take the second chapter. Let me have the book. The fourth verse of the second chapter of Genesis says, "These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day the Lord God made the heavens and the earth." The word day there is used to describe a whole period of creation. Therefore, I do not see there is necessity for construing the words evening and the morning as meaning necessarily a 24-hour day.
Does it or doesn't it?
Great many people think so.
What do you think?
I do not think it does.
I see.
No. But I think it would be just as easy for the kind of God we believe in to make the earth in 6 days or in 6 years or in 6 million years or in 600 million years. I do not think it important whether we believe one or the other.
Do you have any idea the length of these periods?
No, I don't.
You think the sun was made on the fourth day?
Yes.
And they had evening and morning without the sun?
I'm simply saying it is a period.
They had evening and morning for 4 periods without the sun, you think?
I believe in creation as they're told. And if I'm not able to explain it, I will accept it.
That settles it. Now, you call those periods. They may have been for a very long time.
Oh, they might have been.
Creation might have been going on for a very long time.
It might have continued for millions of years. I believe the Bible as it is, and I will not permit you to put your language into the words of the Almighty.
Now, you refer to the bow that was put into heaven after the flood, the rainbow. You believe in that?
Yeah, I'll read it.
All right, Mr. Bryan, I will read it for you. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud.
Oh, Your Honor, I think I can shorten this testimony. The only purpose Mr. Darrow has is to slur at the Bible. But I will answer his questions. I will answer them all at once. And I have no objection in the world. I want the world to know that this man, who does not believe in a God, is trying to use a court in Tennessee.
I object to that.
To slur at.
I object to your statement.
And while it will take
I'm
time,
examining you and your foolish ideas that no intelligent Christian on earth believes.
Let's have order in this court. This court is adjourned.
As the crowd dispersed, scores of people clamored around Darrow, while Bryan, the great commoner, sat exhausted, virtually alone with his thoughts.
I remember I was truly sorry for Mr. Bryan, but I consoled myself by thinking of the years through which he had busied himself tormenting intelligent professors with impudent questions about their faith and seeking to arouse the ignoramuses and bigots to drive them out of their positions.
Before the court opened the next day, a secret meeting took place between Ralston and a number of local politicians and police. In essence, they warned the judge that things had developed to such a fever pitch that they could not be responsible for what might happen if this cross-examination continued. The fears were not unfounded, as Bryan and Darrow had both received death threats. At the same time, Bryan had been told by Stewart that he would dismiss the case if there was any attempt to continue the duel with Darrow. As Ralston's opening address began, Bryan sat motionless in his chair.
I fear I may have committed error yesterday in my overzeal to ascertain any new insights. But now, I feel that the testimony of Mr. Bryan can shed no light upon any issues pending before the higher courts. The lawsuit now is whether or not Mr. Scopes taught that man descended from a lower order of animals and is not one of these broader issues. And so, taking this view of it, I am pleased to expunge this testimony given by Mr. Bryan yesterday from the records of this court, and it will not be considered further.
If Your Honor, please, we have no further witnesses, no proof to offer on the issues the court has just laid down, and will thus ask the court to bring in the jury and instruct them to find the defendant guilty.
For the prosecution, we are pleased to accept Mr. Darrow's suggestion.
Please, the court.
I will hear you, Mr. Bryan.
I fully agree with the court that the testimony taken yesterday was not legitimate or proper. What is more, I have not had the chance to answer the charges the defense has made as to my ignorance and my bigotry.
I object, Your Honor. What is
Let
this
me
all about?
finish. Now that there is a plea of guilty, I realize I cannot make any closing statement. And so I am not asking to make a statement here.
But I will hear what you have to say, Mr. Bryan.
Your Honor, now I shall have to trust to the justice of the press, who yesterday broadcast what was said here in court all over the world. The gentleman who represents the defense not only differs so much from me, but also in the manner of the court. I think it hardly favor them to have brought into the limelight my views on religion than to stand behind the dark lantern which throws light on others but conceals them. The country should know the religious attitudes of these people who come down here to deprive the people of Tennessee of the right to run their schools.
I object to that. Overrule the objection.
That is all.
After that, the case moved swiftly to its inevitable conclusion. The jury did not even bother to retire, but stood huddled in one of the corridors before returning 9 minutes later.
Mr. Foreman, will you tell us whether you've agreed on a verdict?
Yes, sir.
What do you find?
We have found for the state, we find the defendant guilty.
Did you fix the fine?
No, sir.
You leave it to the court.
We leave it to the court.
Mr. Scopes, would you come around here, please, sir? Mr. Scopes, the jury has found you guilty under the law. Have you anything to say as to why the court should not impose punishment upon you?
Your Honor, I feel I have been convicted of violating an unjust statute. I will continue in the future, as I have in the past, to oppose this law in any way that I can. Any other action would be in violation of my ideal of academic freedom. That is, to teach the truth, as guaranteed in our Constitution of personal and religious freedom. I think the fine is unjust.
So then, the court now imposes on you a fine of $100 and costs, which you will arrange with the clerk.
After a series of effusive final speeches, the trial of John Thomas Scopes ended, and the court was adjourned just after midday on July 21st, 1925. The defense now expected the case to go to the Tennessee Supreme Court. However, with the case causing the state's leaders increasing embarrassment, playing as it did to their hayseed image, the state Supreme Court used a legal nicety to relieve that embarrassment. There was a requirement that fines greater than $50 had to be set by the jury. But Ralston, with everyone's agreement, had set the fine himself. On the basis of that procedural slip-up, Scopes' conviction was overturned, leaving the defense with no conviction to appeal. They were thus denied the full airing of the issues they had hoped for in a higher court. This was a serious blow, but the defense's cause had already been overshadowed by a setback they had experienced only days after the trial ended. Bryan had been deeply wounded by his experiences at the trial, but he was a fighter. By the end of that week, he was at work reshaping his campaign and polishing a rebuttal to Darrow's charges. That Sunday, July 26th, he spent the morning discussing plans to take a party of 500 to the Holy Land. He lunched well. He had a reputation as a trencherman, and he then retired to bed for a nap. He died in his sleep. In Washington, thousands filed past his coffin lying in state, while across the nation flags flew at half-mast. In the immediate aftermath, such an upwelling of popular feeling overwhelmed any critical response to the trial, and Bryan's cause bloomed. Anti-evolution bills were passed in Arkansas and Mississippi, while in Texas and elsewhere across the country, school textbooks were rewritten. And there it rested. Until the 1950s, when the arrival of Sputnik kindled serious concerns about the nation's science teaching. There was a determined effort to protect scientific independence and to keep science and religion apart. But the deep-seated appeal of creationist thinking never went away. New, more sophisticated concepts have emerged, such as intelligent design. But in a recent case in Dover, Pennsylvania, where parents contested the local school board's decision to teach intelligent design in science class alongside Darwinism, the judge ruled in favor of the parents. He found intelligent design to be, quote, a religious view, a mere relabeling of creationism, and not a scientific theory, end quote. So, how much do we still live in the shadow of Dayton? Was Bryan, as Macon described him, a once great figure who was seeking consolation, leading a hopeless crusade? Or was he one of the few who saw the dangers in a world increasingly deprived of spiritual foundation? Did his crusade die with him? Or does it continue now?
And this concludes our broadcast of this acclaimed Los Angeles Theater Works production. I'm Damiano Pietropalo. Good night.